Hello, hello out there in Periscope land. Sorry, we're getting started a little bit late. We're having some technical difficulties, but we are live and on the air right now. So, hello everybody. Glad that you're all here live, and for those of you watching on the replay, thank you for joining us. JC3, thanks for joining us. As you come online, type into the chat box there where you're from, and we'll acknowledge what state you're from. That's always kind of fun to see who's calling from all over the United States. And we love the hearts, yes. Thank you for those hearts. We'll talk about those in a minute as well. I'm glad you're here so you can chat with me while we're live today, and you can post those questions. JC's in California. Thanks, JC. Be sure to type in your questions in that chat box, and hopefully I'll see them and read them and answer them right away. If I do miss them, don't hesitate just to type it back in again. Good to see you, MVP. Where are you from? What state are you from? Also, if you think your followers on Twitter or Periscope might benefit from these scopes that we're doing, please tell them about it and share this. Share the link with them so they can watch the replay of these scopes that we're putting together for you. I do have a goal of 5,000 hearts this month. We got a whole bunch of hearts on the last broadcast, and my goal was 1,000, and we exceeded that on the last broadcast. So we want over 5,000 for the month, and in order to get those hearts, which basically means you like what I'm talking about, is just poke down in the right-hand corner of your screen, and that will shoot up the hearts and tell everybody that you like what I'm talking about. So let's get going here. Today, I am going to be looking at my notes quite a bit today because there's a lot of material, so forgive me, but I can't memorize all this in a short period of time. Today we're going to be talking about your farm area. And this is the next major step in the proper sequence of setting up your house business. As you remember, I am in the house business and have been for 43 years now, and that's primarily what we're talking about here, is how to make money in the house business. So we call it the farm area. It doesn't have anything to do with agriculture. It has to do with cultivating a specific area in your town that you want to target to buy property in. You can buy property, maybe you can lease with an option to buy property, but basically it's one area of town that you are going to direct your attention to and find the deals in. Determining your farm area can be an extremely important part of determining what type of property you're going to buy. Now, if you think about this, every town has different sections, different pockets. In fact, as you've heard before, real estate is not a national investment, it's a local investment. And what we mean by that is every market is different. And I found, even within my city of a mere 200,000, that there are areas of town where values are going up and areas of town where values are going down. So you can't even be town specific, you have to be area specific. And that's why picking your farm area is so important, because if you're going to be in this business long term and build long term wealth, you need to do it in an area of town that's going to grow. And grow in value, grow in population, and we'll get into the specifics here in a minute. But determining where your farm area is can be as important as the type of property you're going to buy. This may seem a little bland in nature, but it's important to your overall investment plan that you select the best area of town. So let's take an example. Let's say the northwest section of your city is where you select to farm your investments. Now that may be a large section of the city, it may be too large. You need to narrow it down to probably about a 10 square block area inside that northeast section of town. You need to pick that area, do your research on the rental market and sales markets in that specific area. You want to know the rents in the area, and you want to know the retail values of all the houses in your specific farm area. And so how are you going to be able to determine a good deal unless you know what values are? And that's why it's so difficult to invest outside of your own city. I mean, you probably know your city quite well, but when you get outside of your city, the market can be totally different. I remember some years ago when a whole bunch of investors came out of California here to Illinois and scooped up a bunch of brand new condos and paid top dollar for them because they sounded like a deal compared to California prices. But in fact, they were paying full retail, not getting a deal at all. The rents that were projected by the developer never came about, never came to fruition, and many of those people lost a lot of money. So investing out of your area is very, very risky, and I would advise you to invest only in your specific farm area of your specific town, because that's what you'll get a feel for of the values, rent values and sales values. You need to know both of those. So we want you to carve out about an 8 to 10 square block area in this part of town that you identify as an area where maybe population's growing, people want to move into the neighborhood, they're not moving out, it's low on crime, it's got good schools, it's got good shopping, it's close to the police station, for example. They've got a good police station in the area. So these are all criteria for determining where your farm area is going to be, because you're thinking about this over a long haul. We're talking 20 or 30 years to build real long-term wealth. So getting your information is critical to identifying and then targeting the acquisition of single-family houses in that farm area. So spend the time doing some research in that farm area that you've identified. You want to know the school districts. That's extremely important to appreciation in housing and the desirability of people to move into the neighborhood. You want to know the average homeowner, the average home price, so you've got a feel for it when you go out looking for deals and talking to people. You want to know what's a house, a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or a bi-level sell for in your farm area. So spend some time online analyzing the sales in the tax records of houses that have sold in your farm area. And that'll start giving you a feel for value. And then from a rental standpoint, I would get out the newspaper, look at Craigslist, look online at all the different services for available rentals in your farm area. Call them up, act like you're a tenant, prospective tenant, make an appointment with the landlord to go see the house and go look at it and see just what kind of a house you can get for that price range. And make notes. Keep lots of good notes. A 3-bedroom house. I've looked at 4 of those, and they all rent roughly for $1,000 to $1,200. 4-bedroom houses are renting from $1,200 to $1,500. Keep good notes, because then once you start acquiring, you'll have that ammunition and that information to be able to make a decision on how much you can pay for a house, how much it'll rent for, and if it'll cash flow. It's critical that you get cash flow out of your rentals from day one. So you can do that online. Like I said, read the newspaper. Drive by 10 or 20 houses, even if you don't have appointments. But if you can get the addresses of houses for sale or for rent, drive by them and see what they look like on the outside, what kind of condition, what part of your farm area they're in. Another good idea is talk to other landlords. And the way to do that is by joining a local REIA group, if there is one in your town, or a property owners association. Do a little online research, talk to some friends, find out if there's a real estate club in your area. Join that club. They're well worth the minor expense it costs you to join them, because you'll be rubbing elbows with other investors, and they may bring you deals, you may bring them deals. They'll have speakers come in and teach you a lot of good stuff on how to make money in this business. So I definitely highly recommend that you join an investment club in your area. So first we talked about rents, determining rents, and now let's talk about values. You can take the same approach as the rentals. Like I said, you look at 10 houses, try to get inside them if you can. If not, at least look at the outside. And this is going to start the process in your mind of developing what values are. What we're trying to do is get you to a point where you can drive by a house and say, that's a $150,000 house, just by looking at it from the outside. That's a $110,000 house. So if you know that information cold, then once you start negotiating with sellers, you'll be in a much better position to create a good deal. Remember, you're going to be buying from emotional sellers, and you're going to be selling to emotional buyers. And if you know the range of house values in your farm area, say it's 125 to 150,000 for your area, then you can pay 110,000 for a house and know that you can probably either resell it for more money, or at a minimum lease it with an option to buy for say 165, and then you'll be able to make a good profit because you knew the market well. I think most people who lose money in this business do so because they don't know the market that they're dealing in. So, if anybody likes what I'm talking about so far, shoot me some hearts, please. Just down there in the corner, hit the little your right hand corner. Just tap it, and it'll shoot some hearts up. There we go. Thank you. Okay, knowing your farm area. Let's go back to the rental values. This is very important for the investor who's going to hold properties for the long term and create long-term wealth via management. So it's important that you know not only how to acquire a house, but then are you going to manage it, or are you going to hire a manager? That's an age-old problem that we're all faced with. Personally, I think I like to do my own management because I don't trust other property managers to do it as well as I think I can do it. But some people view that as a mistake and a waste of time, where you can pay somebody to rent your properties and manage them for you, and you're out creating more deals and making more money. So that's a personal decision you're going to have to make. But you do want to find a stable area without a lot of rentals in it. So your farm area should not have a bunch of rental property in it already. In fact, ideally, you'd be the only rental on the street. You do want an area where the trend is for values to be increasing, obviously, and the attraction is there for families to live. Not apartments, but families. Question, do you like renting or owner financing better? Well, it just depends on the deal. You know, when you sit down and talk to people, everybody has a different situation going on in their life, and some people may not want to sell. I remember I rented a house from a professor here at the University of Illinois who was getting divorced, bought his wife out, and then he got transferred out of state to another university, and he didn't want to sell his house. He wanted to keep it for a long-term investment, and I think there were some tax issues there as why he didn't want to sell it. So I rented it from him with an option to buy in 5 years. Then, you know, I negotiated the lowest rent I could with him, and then I went out and found somebody to rent it for more money, and I picked up the spread in between there over a 5-year period. And then at the end of 5 years, in this particular deal I did, he liked what I did. I mean, he knew the rent was going to come from me no matter whether the house was occupied or not. I did what I said I was going to do, and so he renewed for another 5 years. And at the end of that 10-year period, I actually did end up buying the house from him, and it worked out well for both of us. So there are opportunities whether you're renting or buying, but certainly seller financing, as the question came in, is a great way to buy a house. It's a lot easier to buy a bunch of houses using the seller's financing than it is for you to go out and get new financing and have to put up maybe a 20% down payment on every house. You're going to run out of money pretty fast. But if you can take over the loan of the seller and give him a little bit of cash and maybe a note due 5 or 10 years down the line, that will allow you to build your portfolio much quicker. It's important to know what your criteria is for the house you're wanting to buy too. Do you want to buy 2-bedroom houses, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom? I like 3 bedrooms, 1.5 to 2 baths, 1 to 2 car garage. That fits well in the rental market in my town. may or may not fit in your town, but try to come up with that ideal home that you're looking for, and the ideal rent. Maybe 1,000 to 1,200, or 1,200 to 1,400, depending on your market. Look at the following criteria in your farm area. Are there more homeowners than renters? Is the house close to police, fire, and schools? Remember we talked about that. Thanks for joining us, Stallion. How do the streets look? Are they in disrepair? A bunch of potholes? Is the city keeping them up? Has there been at least 3% appreciation over the last 2-year period? Hi, Andy. Thanks for joining us. What state are you from, Andy, if you don't mind telling us? So if you know, I know we've just gone through this recovery, when in fact a lot of markets like ours, like mine, are still recovering from the 2008 collapse. But if you see a section of town that does seem to be appreciating based on your data, that certainly is a good area to jump into and make your farm area. We talked about families. Are they moving into your marketing area, or are they moving out? Do financial institutions want to lend in the area that you want to buy in? That's critical, because at some point you want to sell, and the buyer's going to be able to need to get financing. It's good to know the profile of the family that's living in this farm area as well. Is it mom and dad and 5 kids, or mom and dad and no kids? Because that is going to determine what type of a tenant you put in the house. Here's a big question for you. Would you live in the area? If you drive through the streets of this farm area and you feel uncomfortable, probably not a good idea to buy in that area. So use your own gut feeling when it comes to that regard. And here's a good question. How much under the market value do you need to buy to make a profit? That's critical to making money in this business. And I'll give you some suggestions here in a minute. Let's talk about market values. If you know the market value of the house in your area, when you're negotiating with a realtor, homeowner, wholesaler, or investor, the job's going to be a lot less risky. You will know the range of values for 3 bedrooms, 4 bedroom houses, 2 bath, 2-car garage, whatever it is. In my own marketing area, that criteria represents a value of about $150,000 to $175,000 in value. So if I buy 10 to 20% under the market value, I have a good chance of making a profit using the techniques that we've been talking about here today. You can do rehabbing in this market area. You can buy and hold for long term. You can do some flips, some wholesaling, or even lease options. Rent with an option to buy. It's a great way to make good money in this business, because a person who wants to rent with an option to buy obviously can't qualify for a loan right now, and so they're less apt to want to negotiate on the price. They're just happy to get a house, and you can get full retail. You don't have any real estate commission to pay, because once they exercise the option and pay you off, there's no commission involved. So a lot of really good benefits. Another one is you have no vacancy during your marketing time. In other words, sometimes if you want to list a house, say through the local multiple listing service, and then it sits there empty for 6 months waiting for a buyer, you're losing money every day. Whereas if you got a lease option tenant in there, you're making money as rent right up to the day they convert over to be a buyer. So it saves a lot of money in that regard. So simply get the last 6 months of sales data in your farming area, and meeting the criteria of the house you want to invest in, run an average to determine a range. Because that last 6 months is going to be critical. Probably shouldn't go back further than 6 months, because markets change so quickly. You might end up with a value of, let's say, $150,000 to $175,000 in your area. Remember, if you need to get a calculator out to figure out if you're making money on a deal, you're probably not making money on a deal, because a calculator means you're having to figure it way too thin. So use big round numbers when you're estimating. I would suggest you purchase 10% below the lower end of the scale of values. What's the best way to get the last 6 months of sales data? Well, there are a lot of online services that you can get that information from, either subscribe and pay money or not. But your local county recorder's office will have that data as well. So you can either go online if they have access online, or go to the courthouse, go into the recorder's office, and ask them to see that information. Excuse me. But you can get that information one way or another with those ideas. So, to summarize, developing your farm area, remember, the more information you establish at this level, the better the foundation of your investment program will be in the future. So, excuse me, research is critical. It's kind of like, garbage in, garbage out. Hi, Ford CJ. Thanks for joining us. It pays well to be patient at this stage in the investment process. You'll naturally start seeing rental and market values come into focus over a short period of time. As you gather this data, you'll start to feel comfortable and feel much better about negotiating deals. You'll be able to compare rents and house values almost instantly once you get this comfort level. So take your time in this, be a pro, study hard, talk to other landlords and investors in your area, see what's going on in their life. And this will be the way for you to make bigger profits in the house business. Apply the tips I'm giving you in this business, and pretty soon you'll increase your real estate inventory, which is the whole idea here, is to build wealth over a long-term time period. Because, if you're just buying and flipping and or signing contracts or whatever, that's well and good, but it's not much more than just a job. And if you want to get out of that job category and want to be have long-term wealth, it's going to take you to the effort of you finding good rentals, buying them right, renting them out, managing them, paying the loans down, so one day they're going to be free and clear, and then you'll have a tremendous amount of cash flow at that point. So apply these tips I'm giving you to your own business, and pretty soon you're going to be sitting there with 5 or 10 or 20 houses and building a nice solid portfolio for you and your family's future. I will point out, once you do this, once you start acquiring them, make sure you put each property into its own separate land trust. Don't take title in your name, take title in your trust. It's a simple, easy process, which you can do yourself. So make yourself part of that special group of people who are making more money and protecting their assets by putting the properties into a land trust. Most real estate investors will then make the beneficiary of their land trust their LLC, so we get the best of both worlds. And if you're not familiar with land trusts, you can go to my website, landtrustwebinar.com. That's landtrustwebinar.com to learn more. There's about a 1-hour recorded presentation that I do there. Doesn't cost you anything. You can watch that and learn a lot about land trusts. So I'll be offering more tips like this about buying and managing rental property in the future on future broadcasts. If you'd like to be notified that I'm having my next live presentation on Scope, please send me an email and put in the subject line, add me, ADDME, in that subject line, and send it to me at randy@mrlandtrust.net. That's RANDY @MRLANDTRUST.net. That way I'll add you to my email list and you'll know in advance to tune in. You can also follow me on Periscope and Twitter at my handle, which is @Mr. Land Trust. You probably have some friends and peers who will benefit from this information I've taught today, so be sure to impress upon them your business savvy by sharing this information with them, and I'm sure they would appreciate it. So thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to watch my next broadcast. And that one I'll be talking about your network, and you might be surprised who to be sure to include in your network. So there'll be a little teaser for you then. So until then, if you got any more questions, type them in right now before I sign off. Otherwise, I will be seeing you on the next broadcast. And I am sending out emails to those folks who register with me as a reminder that the broadcast is coming up. And certainly, if you follow me on Scope here, it'll give you a little tweet, that little tweet noise that I'm broadcasting. So, but it's nice to put it in your schedule and know ahead of time. So, until next time, to your success. Thanks a lot for your time today, and I hope you enjoyed these tips. Take care.